Hey guys, we got blessed with an amazing, beautiful, warm day up here in Wisconsin. We are going to take full advantage. I'm going to get outside, get in these garden beds, clean out anything that we did not get to last year. And then I just have a couple other garden beds that we need to cut back a few perennials in. And if we have time today, I want to get to the back border of our yard where we used to have the cut flower fence. Most of that was demolished when our tree came down last year, and we just still have some fencing up that needs to come down so we can rework that space as soon as it gets a little bit nicer out. Since I know this weather won't last up here, we need to take advantage of this day. So let's get started, friend. All right, so here is a little before of what this space looked like when we started with our 8 raised beds. These are 3x6 beds, and we like to grow all of our vegetables in this space. And we are going to be working with 7 of these beds today. If you can see, the one in the very front closest to you with the straw on top is the only bed in this garden that is planted up so far. That has our garlic that we planted back in October, and hopefully we'll be getting some action on that pretty soon and be able to have a summer harvest. But this first bed I'm working in had our fall crop of sugar snap peas on this cattle panel trellis. And these I left up here on purpose because they are a whole lot easier to pull off of this trellis once they're dried up. You can see they just kind of pull right off of here. We actually added 2 garden beds last year, and we never got around to installing the cattle panel trellis on the back of one of those. So pretty soon here, we'll show you guys how we installed this trellis when we put that new one up. And some of this I will just throw behind our wood pile in the backyard and let it sort of decompose there. And in this bed, we just had a few other things in here that needed to be pulled out, and we're just going to clean up some of this debris. And then I'm just going to rake all these beds so they're a little bit even and looking great. Pull out a few extra weeds and get these beds all nice and level and looking beautiful. Now this next bed here, initially I was filled with some regret. I should have cleaned this out last year. This had some of our celery, cucumbers, and I can't actually remember what else was in here, but I really thought this was going to be more of a chore to clean up, but as you can see, most of this kind of came right up and I was able to fold it, and we just had to dig some of these crowns of these plants out of the beds. Some of them were getting kind of mushy and wet, so I did end up baking all of this stuff up just so we can get it out of our way. And I think this garden bed will be really happy. It'll give it a chance to breathe, and pretty soon here we are going to be bringing in a load of topsoil mixed with compost from our local rock and landscaping yard. And we do this every year just to top up the garden beds with a fresh layer of some compost. And most of the time in the garden, that is all the fertilizing I really end up doing, is just adding some natural compost right in here. And our plants seem to just do great with that. But you can see in this garden bed where we left all of this stuff, it really helped keep the weeds down. I really didn't have to pull anything out of here, so we just had to rake it up, level it out, and now we just have these last 2 beds that we're working on. And this front one was not very bad at all for weeds, so it just took a few minutes. But the one in the back here had the most weeds of all to pick through, but it really didn't take that long. And it was just so nice to get out here and start working in the soil, in the warm sunshine, and getting these beds raked out and looking so pretty. So here is just a little glimpse of our progress so far, and now we still have to work on getting just some of this stuff out of this area that got accumulated in here. And I'm not going to lie, it looks like there's a lot of junk back here, which, yes, there is. However, some of this was intentional. We still have a few inches underneath the fencing over here that we need to build up with a little bit of dirt. And we had some neighborhood chickens that would wander into the yard and get into our garden beds underneath this fence. And you guys, I love chickens. We have them in our own yard and we let ours free range. I just try to keep them out of our garden beds. And so When this kind of became a problem when they were in the garden beds, we just put some of this fencing back here and random things so they couldn't get under the fence and into the garden beds. And so now it's just a matter of putting all of this stuff away and just sort of cleaning up some weeds in this area so that it can look nice and tidy when we get into the gardening season. And the last thing I want to do in this area before we move on to another part of the yard is just give this area a quick little rake. There was some straw on the ground from these garden beds. And you might notice there's a little bit of compost laying on top of these garden beds. We found a few bags over here that we had, so we just dumped them on there and I raked them out smooth right over the top to give these beds a little boost before we get our other soil in here. And now we are going to take a satisfying stroll through these garden beds. And this has me so excited for planting this year and seeing these beds ready to go. It brings me so much joy. And I cannot wait to get out here and get some of our spring crops and seeds into this garden and start the whole gardening season. Now we're going to work a little bit on the back border of our yard here. I have a small flower bed over here off to the left that used to meet up with our cut flower fence, and we are still going to grow some of our cut flowers in this area, but we are going to incorporate it into a much bigger flower bed back here. Instead of having a fenced off garden with rows of cut flowers, it's going to be a bigger border with evergreen trees and a bunch of perennials. And I have a lot of different plans for back here, getting sort of a layered look and mixing in our cut flowers. It's going to be really fun to do this year. And we have been talking about doing this for many years back here. And the big push was our tree coming down and kind of taking out the majority of this fence. So right now it's just a matter of getting all of this fencing out so we can have this space opened back up and do this massive rework back here. It was kind of the push that we needed to make some major changes that we've been talking about for a while. So once we got all of this fencing kind of out of here and out of our way, I just ended up pulling a few weeds and raking up a little bit. And this is definitely not about perfection back here. It was more about opening up the space to just see its potential. And the last thing we're doing today is getting in one little small garden bed. We can see this from our back patio. I plant this up with some of our cut flowers that we grow. And we do have a few other plants in here, a juniper, a couple of hydrangeas, some yarrow, and 3 of these nepeta plants that we're actually cutting back today. I usually wait on my hydrangeas and do them all in one day, and we're going to be doing that coming up here soon. I do like to wait on that until the weather warms up just a little bit. I like to see those nice strong buds, and I'll show you how we do that when we get to that point. And here I just have a few longer yarrow stems that we're going to tidy up, rake this area out just a little bit, and pull a couple of weeds. And here is a look at all of the spaces we got tidied up today. It feels so great to see this yard a little more open and to see this vegetable garden prepped and ready to go for this season. And that's where I think I'm going to call it for today's video. We have just a little bit of daylight left here to enjoy with the family, and I am so happy with getting these garden beds cleaned out, clearing out that back area there, just seeing the potential of what we're going to get done this year and just getting one little flower bed cleaned out. It's just a small little accomplishment, but it feels really great to get done. And now these garden beds are all prepped and ready to go. If the weather cooperates, within just a couple of weeks, we can start planting our peas, carrots, radishes, all of our direct seeded things into these garden beds and start getting our spring crops in here. And we have potatoes coming very soon, so stay tuned, you guys, because we're going to have one of these beds full of some russet potatoes that are supposed to be delivered very soon. And I really can't wait for everything that we're going to get going and planted in this garden this year. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. We'll see you in the next one.